My name is Michael. I want to tell you about an episode from my life that happened in the not-too-distant past.
I am brown-eyed and brunette, not small in height, normal build.
Not handsome, but not ugly. I often hear in my address that I am charming. This story happened to me when I was 19 years old.
I was in my third year at university at the time. It was summer and I got a part-time job while almost all my friends went on vacation. So I was very bored. And it was out of boredom that I gladly accepted a birthday invitation from a friend, even though we didn't socialize much. Jennifer, that was the girl's name. As far as I knew, she lived in a rented apartment. I was at her place by the appointed time, congratulated Jennifer, gave her a gift and hurried to meet the rest of the invitees, since I didn't know anyone else. There were about a dozen guests at the table in the kitchen, all about my age, except for a woman about 35 to 40 years old, who turned out to be the landlady from whom Jennifer was renting a room. But in spite of her age, Emily's figure, as the birthday girl had introduced her to me, was a sight to behold. Medium height, with long legs and a very appetizing soft spot, a small tummy and size 2 breasts. All of this, along with her shoulder-length blonde hair and bright blue eyes, looked just gorgeous. She was wearing a skirt just above her knees and a white blouse that only emphasized her figure. I involuntarily stared at her. The thought flashed through my mind of how beautifully preserved she was. At first I felt awkward in the company of strangers, but the alcohol did its job. I opened up, and the conversation flowed in the right direction. When everyone had eaten enough, and my head was already buzzing from the booze, the dancing began. Emily came up to me and invited me. I tried to refuse, but she took my hand and pulled me to the center of the room. We spun around in a dance and I felt myself starting to get aroused. And the thought that this woman was almost twice my age didn't stop me, on the contrary, it turned me on even more. When the last chords of music sounded, I hurried to the table. For the next hour I caught Emily's interested glances. After a while we found ourselves alone on the balcony, standing, smoking and talking. Emily turned out to be a great conversationalist. It was interesting and pleasant to communicate with her. She told me about her hard fate. Her husband died a year ago, and she had to rent a room in her apartment. When we returned to the kitchen, it turned out that all the guests had already left. The birthday girl had fallen asleep at the table, so I carried her into the room. Emily and I had a drink, and I asked her to dance. She happily agreed. The alcohol made me bolder, and I moved my hands just below her waist, but Emily paid no attention. I inhaled her scent, lightly stroking her firm heel. She turned her head, and our lips met. And how passionately she kissed me. After a while she pulled away and whispered what we were doing. But I didn't let her finish and covered her lips with another kiss. She looked into my eyes, smiling slyly. She didn't care that Jennifer was probably still awake and could come out to us at any moment, and I didn't care at that moment. Desire overshadowed all my thoughts. We walked to the next room and laid down on the bed. I was over the moon. It was a high. It felt really good. After all the pleasures of a grown woman, Emily, kissing me gently, left to take a shower, and I lay there thinking about the fact that I had just slept with a mature woman, and I enjoyed it very much. When she came back, Emily clung tightly to me and whispered, "Thank you. I haven't had such a good time in a long time." After that night, we began a secret relationship. I was mesmerized by her experience, confidence, and graceful body. She made me feel like a man. It went on like that for several months until one day Jennifer caught us in a compromising pose. She was shocked and hurt. I was ashamed of myself. After that, Jennifer and I stopped seeing each other. I tried to rebuild my friendship with my friend, but things were never the same between us again. I learned some hard lessons from that experience. As exciting as it was at the time, having an affair with an older woman was not worth sacrificing other relationships. I lost a good friend because I couldn't control my impulses. After college, I met my future wife Emily. We had a strong bond based on trust, communication, and maturity, something I didn't realize at 22. I am now happily married with 2 children. From time to time, I still think back to that wild summer with Jennifer.
But I know I'm a better person for having gone through it and learned from my mistakes.